तो बहुत चावल जाता होगा यहाँ से?
500 kilo per day.
Every day?
In 1 kilo it is 800 portion for 100 kilo. Then
4,000 portions every single day.
इसमें और ज़्यादा हो जाता है.
Gives you an idea of how much of Niyaaz biryani is consumed in Belagavi. Well, that biryani has just come off that deg and that biryani is piping hot. That meat is soft, like makhmal. That meat is velvety in its texture. There's a certain fulsomeness in every grain of the rice. Hi folks, this is Kripalamana Gourmet on the Road and you're watching Food Lovers TV. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're staying safe and strong. So we're on the highway that connects Dharwad behind me to Belgaum, and we're on our way to explore some food in the city, and more specifically a biryani. Now every city in the country has its own version of the biryani. These are biryanis that people in the city have come to love over years, over decades. And Belgaum too has its favorite biryani, and this is a biryani that has been around for perhaps a couple of decades or more, and I'm told it's very popular amongst the people of Belgaum. So this biryani, I'm told, is the Niyaaz biryani. So that's what we've set out to explore on this rainy morning. So stick around to find out what a Belagavi biryani at Hotel Niyaaz is all about. Well, here we are in Belgaum at Niyaaz, the original Belgaum Biryani. And I like a line there which says taking Belgaum Biryani to the world. Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste. Namaste.
You are Niyaaz.
Yes, I am Niyaaz.
So you are the man behind the original Belgaum Biryani as you...
I am not behind it, but ये मेरे grandpa थे.
अच्छा, आपके grandfather ने?
Grandpa उन्होंने एक writer थे, तो उनके वो they used to read his books. तो उसका उनका वो बहुत inspired थे उनसे. तो उनका नाम मुझे रखा, उनका ही नाम रेस्टोरेंट पे रखा, ऐसा नहीं.
ओके ओके. तो उनका नाम इनको पड़ा
और उनका ही नाम रेस्टोरेंट पे.
और रेस्टोरेंट का भी पड़ा. Fantastic. But then when you have your name on the restaurant, तो बहुत अहमियत रखता है.
वजन है सर, एक वजन है, एक जिम्मेदारी है, संभालें, उसको और फ्लरिश करें, ऊपर लेके जाएं. और
मैं लोगों को बोला कि मैं बेलगाम जा रहा हूँ, तो मुझे काफ़ी सारे कमेंट्स आए. तो बोले कि आप बेलगाम जा रहे हो तो नियाज बिरयानी खाकर ही आना है. सो व्हाट मेक्स दिस बिरयानी सो स्पेशल?
बेलगाम बेसिकली बिरयानी के लिए फेमस है, इसके यूनिक टेस्ट के लिए. बेलगाम यहाँ पे जो स्पेशली जो वाटर है यहाँ का बहुत स्वीट है. यहाँ की सब्जी बहुत मीठी होती है. स्पेशली इज़ फेमस फॉर, पहला तो पानी है यहाँ का, वेजिटेबल है, कुंदा है, देन उसके बाद बिरयानी है. 30 years बैक हमने शुरू किया बिरयानी से. तो स्पेशली उस टाइम पे उतना ये नहीं था. बिरयानी बनती थी घरों पे, बनती थी ज़्यादा फंक्शंस में बनती थी. रेस्टोरेंट पे नहीं बनती थी, उतनी ज़्यादा बिरयानी नहीं बनती थी. तो हमने जब बिरयानी पे फोकस करके शुरू किया, तो डे 1 जब 88-89 में हमने शुरू किया, उस टाइम पे जब फर्स्ट डे हो गया बिरयानी हमने बनाई और रेस्टोरेंट ओपन किया. सेकेंड डे 10 किलोमीटर दूर से लोग आए थे खाने के लिए. यार कभी हमारे फ्रेंड बिरयानी खा के गए थे, एंड योर बिरयानी इज समथिंग डिफरेंट.
एंड दिस वाज नॉट इन द एज ऑफ सोशल मीडिया.
No,
30 साल पहले कुछ नहीं था.
ओनली माउथ पब्लिसिटी.
ओनली माउथ पब्लिसिटी. हाँ,
ज़्यादा फ़ोन भी नहीं होते थे, रिसीव भी नहीं होते थे. माय फादर यूज्ड टू रन अ किराना स्टोर. ओके. So he has experience of 25 to 30 years. Okay. So we know about the masala, the rice, how best it is. कैसे वो best होते हैं, कैसे अच्छे होते हैं. So we have a knowledge of that. तो वो बहुत हमको उसका ये मिला, फ़ायदा हुआ कि वो बिरयानी के लिए, फूड के लिए, स्पेशली फूड के लिए, तो कौन से इसमें स्पाइसेस चाहिए, एंड व्हाट काइंड ऑफ स्पाइसेस वी नीडेड.
व्हाट काइंड ऑफ स्पाइसेस?
जैसे आप अभी कार्डमन नहीं, तो वी हैव 10 varieties of cardamom in the market. But which cardamom is better for the biryani? So we have a knowledge of that.
Fantastic. So it's interesting to learn that the family had a background in ingredients through the store. So they knew rice, they knew the spices.
Yes.
and therefore you ensure that you procure, you know what's best for the biryani that you do. And the biryani that you do, so is it a Hyderabadi style of biryani?
No, it's a Belgaum style biryani.
Okay.
It's something different from the Hyderabadi. Hyderabadi biryani थोड़ा क्या होता है कि वहाँ पे दिल्ली राइस they used to, and वो थोड़ा उनका बिरयानी मसालेदार होता है.
हाँ.
थोड़ा ही स्पाइसी होता है. But our biryani is very mild in the taste.
Oh, okay. I think speaking of all the biryani, I think I want to take a look at what's cooking.
Yeah, sure.
Can we do that?
Yes. Thanks.
Let's go in and take a look at what's cooking.
We have started here in 88-89 with the capacity of 16 sitting capacity.
16?
16. Why 400 plus?
400 plus people sit here and eat.
One time.
One time. And I guess all of them must eat the biryani.
Yeah.
So I think they first eat the biryani and then everything else.
Yes.
That's a phenomenal transition. So these are all for the biryanis?
Yeah, these are all the biryanis.
So you can get a sense of the number of biryanis that get churned out. These giant burners and these giant dags here. Ah, so these are the spices.
Yeah.
So I can see the coriander seeds, some kaluas, the stone flower, cardamom, mace, pepper, nutmeg.
Ginger is separate, garlic is separate, green chili.
But this is only green chilies.
Yeah, only green chili.
And the red chili powder. Kasuri methi.
Yeah, kasuri methi, shahi jeera.
Shahi jeera. What is at the heart of your biryani, Niyaaz?
Heart of the biryani is a mutton.
Is a mutton?
Yeah, mutton and the rice. Especially goes to the vendor. 1 year ka goat chahiye, below 1 year. And its weight should be 8 to 10 kilos.
8 to 10 kilos.
8 to 10 kilos.
And this is a goat.
We use to sheep.
You use sheep.
Sheep is a better for biryani.
So आप sheep use करते हो? Okay.
Rice procurement is very important. Belgaum basmati rice लिखो.
So ये है बेलगाम का बासमती राइस.
बेलगाम लोकल.
अच्छा. एक खुशबू है इसमें.
खुशबू है.
हाँ.
बहुत अच्छी खुशबू है.
तो इसका ग्रेन साइज काफी बड़ा नहीं है.
बड़ा नहीं होता, मीडियम होता.
So this is the Belgaum basmati rice that goes into the Belagavi biryani. हाँ. आपके पहले बेलगाम में बिरयानी का सिलसिला था? हाँ.
बट वही मैंने बताया कि ज़्यादा फंक्शंस में बनती थी.
अच्छा.
हाँ, कमर्शियल यूज़ के लिए ज़्यादा
अच्छा.
नहीं था.
हाँ.
25-30 ईयर्स का हिस्ट्री है. उसके बाद वहाँ से शुरू हो गया. रेस्टोरेंट्स के अंदर बिरयानी बनना शुरू हो गई. ज़्यादा बाहर से लोग इसके लिए खाने को आने लगे. तब से ये स्टार्टेड.
तो बहुत चावल जाता होगा यहाँ से?
तकरीबन 500 किलो पर डे.
Every day?
In 1 kilo it is 800 portion. For 100 kilo, then
4,000 portions every single day. Weekday, weekend.
तो मैं और ज़्यादा हो जाता है.
Weekend ज़्यादा होता है.
50% बढ़ जाता है.
Gives you an idea of how much of Niyaaz biryani is consumed in Belagavi. आपका नाम क्या है शेफ?
हरीश रावत.
हरीश रावत. कहाँ के हो आप? उत्तराखंड के हो. अच्छा.
52 टाइप के मसाले इसमें हम यूज़ करते हैं सर.
किसने 52 टाइप के मसाले?
सीक्रेट रेसिपी हमारी.
सीक्रेट रेसिपी हो तो सीक्रेट हर एक शेफ का, हर एक एस्टेब्लिशमेंट का एक सीक्रेट होता है. उससे वो जायका आता है अलग सा.
कसूरी मेथी है, इसमें लवंग, दालचीनी, इलायची है, क्यूमिन है.
क्यूमिन है.
चिली पाउडर भी यूज़. यहाँ पे एक लोकल प्लेस है
बैडगी का.
बैडगी का.
हाँ.
दैट वी यूज़.
तो आपके बिरयानी में फीकापन ज़्यादा नहीं है?
नहीं होता, फीकापन नहीं होता.
आपके यहाँ ग्रीन चिली पेस्ट देख रहा हूँ.
बट वी यूज़ वेरी लिटिल क्वांटिटी.
बहुत कम यूज़ करते हो.
अगर तीखा ज़्यादा लगा, अगर ज़्यादा मसाला लगा उसमें, तो आदमी ज़्यादा खा नहीं सकता है. तो हम लोग ऐसे ये करते हैं कि बाबा ज़्यादा भी खाए, उसको पेट में तकलीफ ना हो.
पेट में तकलीफ भी ना हो.
वर्क होल डे.
बिरयानी बनाए?
There is 2 marinations.
हाँ. तो ये पहला वाला. This is with your blend of कितने spices? 52 spices. हाँ. There are 52 spices in that. So that is gone in. Some cardamom powder. Oil, थोड़ा तेल. That oil will basically ensure that all that masala and that cardamom powder gets into the meat for the first marinade. Some ghee. Desi ghee.
Desi ghee.
The brista. When it comes to a biryani, it's that brista which combines with the spices and makes for that masala. Some saffron water that just went in. So I think a good biryani is akin to a good orchestra. So there are many people who play their part with the various instruments, and it's only when they all come together harmoniously that's when you get something truly exceptional. So in a biryani, it is a skill of the cook. Of course, the recipes that have been created over time, mastered over time, and then as you very rightly said, all the ingredients. This is the first marinade. So this will rest now for about 15 minutes, allowing for the meat to soak up, to soak in all that masala. And after 15 minutes, perhaps it's time for the second marination. Some chicken biryani also happening on the side. First marination again. Marination recipes are the same, whether it's mutton or chicken. But it's the character of the meat that takes over.
जैसे मैंने बताया सर कि वी हैव किराना
तो उसमें
स्टोर अपनी थी, यहीं पे पीछे ही थी।
हाँ।
तो पापा यूज्ड टू सिट देयर एंड यहाँ पे बस स्टैंड है, तो बेलगाम का जो मेन बस स्टैंड है यहाँ पे, तो आते देखते थे व्हाट यहाँ पे पब्लिक की डिमांड क्या है, आ रहे हैं टूरिस्ट की डिमांड क्या है। तो उनके फ्रेंड्स से उन्होंने डिस्कस किया, तो उनका डिस्कशन ये आउटकम निकला कि यहाँ पे रेस्टोरेंट चाहिए अच्छा सर्कल पे, ये जो सर्कल है यहाँ पे रेस्टोरेंट नहीं है, तो अच्छा एक रेस्टोरेंट चाहिए। तो वो आइडिया ऐसे क्रिएट हो गया 88-89 में जब we started.
From 16 covers, they have now multiplied rather exponentially to about 400 plus.
We have around 500 plus staff.
500 plus staff. And how many seats in all your, across all your restaurants? कितने seats होंगे?
ये सबसे बड़ा है। इसके बाद में अपना फर्स्ट गेट पे यहाँ पे एक है, वो एक 80 कैपेसिटी का है। यहाँ पे JNMC कॉलेज है मेडिकल में, उसके पास एक है वो 100 कैपेसिटी का है। एंड अपना एक बॉक्स साइड रोड पे है, वो एक 50 कैपेसिटी का है।
So
यहाँ पे एक और एक छोटा एक 40 कैपेसिटी का।
So it's roughly about 700-800 seats in Belgaum.
हाँ, every corner, north, east, west, हम लोग we are present.
And is the biryani the same wherever you eat in Belgaum?
हाँ, सर इट्स अ चैलेंज। ये चैलेंज है कि सब जगह एक करके थोड़ा 19-20 हो जाता है, बट आपको लगेगा यार सिमिलर है, थोड़ा है, बट इट्स चलेगा, उतना एकदम ज़मीन आसमान का फ़र्क नहीं है।
I like his honesty. I like his honesty in saying that, because I think when it comes to food, of course you may do all the masalas and everything, but then the hand changes.
Hand changes there. Hand changes.
The hand changes, and perhaps even the energy of the space.
Energy is this space. That all involves.
All that plays a role in determining food, right? And especially when you're doing food like this is not fast food. This is food that is put together with a lot of love, with a lot of care, where there's the involvement, the hand of the chef that touches the food at every stage. So if the hand changes, perhaps some things may change, but
little bit.
by and large, the essence of your biryani will be more or less same.
हम लोग RO पानी यूज़ करते हैं।
RO यूज़ करते हो? हाँ, okay.
ये RO कनेक्शन है। We have plant up there. For drinking also, सभी ब्रांचेज में ये give the RO water. RO water.
लेकिन वो फिर वो बेलगाम का मीठा पानी वो क्या होता है? वो तो
वो उसके जो स्पेशलिटी वो लॉस नहीं होती, वो मीठापन रहेगा ही रहेगा।
हाँ. So the meat has rested for about 15 minutes in that marination of the masala, the ghee, the cardamom powder, the oil, and also the saffron water and that brista. Garlic paste. How much meat is there? 2 kilo. So when you typically make your batches, it must be much bigger than that.
Bigger, 5 kilo.
5 kilo, 10 kilo. So
this is a bigger one.
Oh, okay. That's the quantity that you do. Ginger. Green chili paste. Coriander and mint. So similar marination for the chicken as well. Yogurt. There's plenty of yogurt that's going in. Some yogurt for the mutton as well. Some salt going into that hot water now. That water is getting ready to meet the rice. And some spices as well, just to flavor the water, which will then flavor the rice. I can see some cardamom, some cloves, cinnamon. There's some bay leaf apparently too. Some shahjeera that's going in. Oh, there's some chilies as well that go into this. We're in North Karnataka, they love their chilies. But that chili will, I guess, just give it a certain character, that's all. So when you're cooking your rice in a biryani, you have to make sure that you infuse some flavor into the water. That's very important. When the rice meets that meat, that rice too should bring its own flavors to the party. Otherwise, it's only the rice that ends up drawing from the spices there without really bringing some of its own. But out here, when that rice cooks for a certain extent, cooks for a certain time, in that pot of water with the spices, it too will absorb some of the flavors of the spices, and that's what it will carry with it when it meets the meat. You also use a little bit of basmati, the long grain. So, but mostly it's the Belgaum basmati. So 4 kilos of rice for 2 kilos of the chicken and 2 kilos of the mutton. There's also some heat that's applied to the chicken and the mutton as well.
Yes.
And they're also warming up to meet that rice. So when you add some warm water in there, that also helps create some sort of an equilibrium with regards to the temperature. Otherwise you would end up shocking the meat, scalding the meat with that hot rice. More brista going in. Fantastic. Coriander and mint. Well, that rice is cooked for about 10-15 minutes and now chef is ladling that rice over the meat. Oh, there's some saffron that's being ladled onto the rice. That has been ladled onto the meat. Some more brista. So basically the rice is added in layers. So the rice that's closest to the bottom of that deg in which that biryani will eventually be cooked on dum needs to cook the most. And the rice that's layered on top is the rice that's already cooked the most and therefore needs to cook the least when it's placed on dum. The oil is the oil in which the onions are cooked, the brista has been cooked. So it's got all the aromas, all the flavors of the fried onions, and that's what he's using to ladle on top. And that oil, I guess, will also help in that biryani cooking on steam, on dum. And some ghee, some tuppa. And I think last but not the least, some more saffron water. Some saffron that goes in to stain the biryani a golden orange. And the brista. So when I look at your biryani, the construction or the coming together of the biryani, I guess somewhere there is a Hyderabadi influence.
Somewhere there is another influence. More or less, it's near.
It's near.
उनका मसाला थोड़ा strong रहता है.
उनका जो मसाला थोड़ा खड़ा रहता है.
खड़ा रहता है.
हाँ.
हमारे यहाँ पे milder side.
But the technique that you use is more or less similar to Hyderabadi biryani, where you do the kacchi akhni, where the meat goes through a double marination. And then there's a lot of brista that's used, which is another thing that I find in common. And then of course the ladling of the rice at different stages of cooking. But I guess the rice, like you said, the rice makes a huge difference.
Rice and mutton.
Rice and the mutton. I think it eventually boils down to what is available. I think sheep or the kuri is found in plenty here in Karnataka. And therefore I think it's the kuri mutton that our palates have also gotten accustomed to, and that's what we seem to relish the most.
Yeah.
आटा लग गया है. Now the lid will go on top. कितने टाइम पकेगा ये? Half hour. Chef has turned up the flame. The biryani deg has been sealed now, and all that we can do now is wait for that biryani to emerge in about 30 minutes or so. Well, 30 minutes have passed. पेट में चूहे दौड़ रहे हैं. And I'm waiting for that biryani to reveal itself. Chicken biryani. Some coriander mint and more brista. And now chef is slowly awakening the biryani. I love all that masala. That masala, let's see that brista. The aroma of this biryani is it's fragrant but subtle. That's the sort of aromas that I'm tasting. Chicken biryani opened, now the mutton biryani. Arey wah. I think the excitement whenever you open a deg of biryani, when the flavors come out, when the first reveal, because आपने मसाले डाले हैं, आपने मीट डाले हैं, आपने spices डाले हैं, चावल डाला है, लेकिन अंदर क्या हो रहा है बिरयानी के देग में पता नहीं है आपको. But when it opens,
भूख बढ़ जाती है.
भूख बढ़ जाती है. मेरी भूख तो certainly और बड़ी है. जो वो बिरयानी से जो उसका लिड उठ जाता है, जब बिरयानी की घूंघट उठती है. You're looking forward to what's in store for you. Well, that biryani has just come off that deg and that biryani is piping hot. This is the Niyaaz Belagavi biryani.
Yes.
This is a biryani that's now beginning to appeal to your olfactory senses. Shuru kare?
Yes.
Bismillah. That rice has more or less trapped all the flavor of that masala. And I think that brista has certainly done its job. So as that biryani cooks in the deg, steam emanates from the bottom of the deg, from that meat masala, works its way upwards, penetrating each and every strand of the rice with its flavors, and that's really what you're tasting. And the onions, the brista, helps trap that flavor. And meat is hot. Bisi biryani. Bisi Belagavi biryani. मैं ज़बरदस्ती कर रहा हूँ मीट से. With all due respect, I'm eager to taste that meat. That meat is soft. This piece that I'm tasting is soft, like makhmal. That meat is velvety in its texture. The wicked pleasure, the joy of eating a biryani just a few minutes after that deg has been opened is quite something. Well, we've seen the biryanis emerge from dum. We've also got a sneak taste of that biryani. I can't wait to get to the table and have a more in-depth conversation with the Niyaaz biryani, the Belagavi biryani. When you are looking forward to savoring a biryani, you want to savor that biryani on its own, especially if you want to get to know it a little better. So I think for this meal here at Niyaaz, we're only going to taste the biryani, the chicken biryani, and also that mutton biryani that we just witnessed being made. Some raita.
This is a pudina chutney.
Well, this is that interesting pudina chutney, that the base of which is the besan, the gram flour. The supporting act is here. We're now waiting for the hero to come, the biryani. And we're going to make a beginning, I think, with the chicken biryani. When you look at a biryani, just the sight of that should make you happy. And this certainly seems to have brought a smile to my face. I love the aroma that's hitting my nose. And plus there's a fair bit that's happening in this biryani. So you've got a combination of the medium grain Belagavi basmati and also the long grain rice that they use. There's plenty of the brista, the onion that you see here. You also have some of the coriander. And then of course the masala. You know, this is a biryani that is quite subtle in its ada, in the way it greets your palate and also your olfactory senses. This isn't a biryani that you will smell from a mile away, but this is a biryani, I think, that implores you to draw nearer to it, to understand it a little better. Some of the spice that went in to flavor the water in which the rice was cooked eventually. I've not got into the meat yet, but the rice is moist. You can taste the flavor of the brista, a slight sweetish tinge that comes from the fried onion, and also because they use some of that brista oil that's poured on top of the rice before it goes for dum. I think that brista perfumed oil also seeps through the rice, and that's really what you're tasting. And now that my palate is familiar with the flavor of the brista, I am now beginning to taste some of the warmth of the spices. Let's get to some of the meat. That piece of chicken is cooked to the bone. It's moist, it's juicy, and has also trapped the flavor of the masala. As that biryani cooks on dum, twice marinated, the masala, I can taste the warmth of the masala in my mouth. I can taste a bit of the warmth at the back of my throat. But otherwise the masala does well just to flavor the meat. It isn't a spice mix that overpowers the meat. And that's a surprising thing, because I thought typically in North Karnataka, the expectation that you have is of a lot of spice. But this biryani is anything but that. This is a biryani that's quite mellow, that's quite gentle in the manner it greets your palate. Let's go for some of the rice and the meat. That meat seems complete in its flavors. You know, although there are 52 spices that apparently go into that spice blend, I think somehow they work in a manner where all of them bind together rather harmoniously. I'm not tasting one spice over the other. I'm not really tasting, let's say for example, the sweet spice of the star anise, or perhaps the astringent hit of the clove. I think all the spices have come together rather harmoniously. There's a bit of the warmth that I taste from the red chili powder that probably goes into that masala, and that is apparent in the manner it sits on your tongue. But other than that, the spicing here for this biryani is quite gentle. Let's go for the second piece of the chicken. That meat is moist. And if you like a little more masala, look for some of that brista, which has that masala clinging onto it. If you want a bite, that's a tad more rich in its flavors. The more I'm tasting of this biryani, the more I'm enjoying it. I want to ferret out all the meat from the crevices in this bone, and along with it some of the masala that's trapped in it as this biryani is cooked. And if you want a bit of a flavor oomph in terms of an accompaniment, I think that's where that chutney comes into play. This is a chutney that's made of roasted gram flour, into which goes some green chilies, some coriander, some mint, plenty of onions. And I'm told that this with the biryani too makes for a great combination. I think it certainly brings in the flavor of that coriander and the mint and a bit of that green chili to the mix. But I am savoring this rice and meat entirely on its own. There's a certain fulsomeness in every grain of the rice. I thought typically I would finish the chicken biryani rather quickly and make tracks to the mutton, but I think I want to spend some more time with this chicken biryani, especially a piece of meat. And this piece of the meat also has a lot more masala that's trapped in. And that brista has now cooked almost to the texture of jam. Of course, laden with all the spices. I think onion also makes for a great carrier of flavors. That masala has seeped into that chicken completely. Sometimes when you're tasting chicken, upar mein masala hota hai, but inside it's rather white and bland. But out here, the manner in which the chef has marinated it twice, massaged that spice blend, massaged the cardamom powder, massaged that ghee, the yogurt, the brista, and of course the second marination of the ginger, garlic, onion and the green chili paste has ensured that all the flavors, the collective flavors of the spices of the ingredients have seeped into that chicken. And the meat is soft and the salt that you can peel away rather easily from the bone. And I think when you're tasting the biryani here, look for those pieces at the bottom which have a little more of the masala trapped into it, because that's where you will get a jor ka flavor jhatka. I love the warmth of the biryani and also a tinge of sweetness that perhaps comes from the onions, or I don't know if it's the water of Belagavi. I think it's mostly the caramelized onions. The chutney plays a role if you want a bit more of that flavor spike, and especially the green chili that you taste in that. But if you ask me, I am perfectly happy tasting this rice and chicken combination entirely on its own. You know, as you're savoring the biryani is moist and you're enjoying its flavors. But now that I've finished the biryani, I can taste on the tip of my tongue a slight tinge of warmth. The warmth that perhaps comes from the red chili powder into which the spices are crushed in. Also perhaps the heat of the spices in itself. The mutton biryani is here, but I can still smell the lingering aroma of that chicken biryani on my fingers. I think that should be what a biryani is all about, right? You should have finished eating the biryani, but the taste of the biryani should linger. Linger on your palate and also in your fingers. Enough poetry, let's get to that mutton biryani. So this biryani comes with I think about 3 pieces of meat. I've got 2 pieces already here. When I savored the rice in the kitchen, it was hot straight off the deg. Now the flavors have had some time to settle in, and I'm sure this rice will taste a bit different from what I tasted back in the kitchen. You know, the moment you put the rice from a mutton biryani in your mouth, its flavors are quite unmatchable. Because I think when it comes to chicken, the bird doesn't have enough to give to the rice. But when it comes to the mutton has all its fat, has all its juices that it readily shares with the rice. So as that biryani cooks in the deg, the meat is at the bottom, but as the biryani cooks, the vapors rise through that marinated meat, working its way upwards and impregnating each and every dana of the rice. And that's really what you taste when you're savoring the rice in a mutton biryani. It's fulsome flavors. So the rice in itself doesn't have much of the masala clinging onto it. That masala is found in the meat. And that's why I think this is a biryani, especially if you like the masala, where you need to savor both the meat and the rice in unison. Let's taste some of the meat. This piece of meat has a fair bit of fat in proportion to the meat, but there's plenty of the masala that I can draw from. And the meat is soft, rather tender. And that masala is gold. Is gold when you're savoring this Belagavi biryani. I think out here, perhaps people like a lot of fat in the meat, because that's what I'm finding in the meat. There's a fair bit of fat. I don't mind some fat that's ribboned through it, but sometimes too much fat can get in the way of you enjoying that masala. Because when you're tasting fat more or less by itself. I like a bit of fat, but I like mostly to taste the meat with the masala and the rice. Thank you. The third piece of the meat, for some reason at the bottom of that deg, there's plenty of the masala. And I think that's where the biryani starts becoming even more interesting. To me, the character of this biryani is the delicateness of that masala. This isn't a biryani that you will smell from a mile away. This isn't a biryani that will explode like a flavor bomb in your mouth. Or rather, it's a biryani where the spices cohere together such that you don't decipher one from the other. And then the slight sweetness of the brista that cuts through the warmth of the spices. And needless to say, this is a biryani that's moist. The meat's tender, good quality. My only grouse, and a minor one at that, is that it seems to have a bit too much fat. I like a bit of fat, but in measured quantities. For me, it's more about the meat, the rice, and that masala. And of course, with that brista, which is carrying forth all those flavors. There's a chutney here, there's a raita here, there's the onion here. But to be honest, I haven't felt the need to taste any of that. I'm enjoying that rice and meat entirely on its own. I was expecting for the biryani to really jostle your taste buds with spice, because that's what I thought is what the people of North Karnataka seem to like. But this biryani is delicate, is mellow in its flavors, is the sort that compels you to draw closer to it in order to appreciate it. Of course, if you like a little more of the flavor spike, you've got the chutney, and there's also a sherwa that they serve along with the biryani. But I enjoyed the biryanis here entirely on their own. So if you happen to be in Belgaum or Belagavi and you're looking to savor a biryani of the land, definitely find your way to Hotel Niyaaz to taste their Belagavi style of biryanis. This is a recipe that the family has worked on for the last 30 years. There's a great deal of care that's being taken in terms of the ingredients that go into it, and also by the chefs who are cooking up these pots of biryani in enormous quantities every day. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Gourmet on the Road. Until the next time, take care, stay safe, stay strong, and happy eating. I thought I was done with my meal and I thought I was done with the episode. But then suddenly I was jostled by all the flavors that I'm tasting in my palate. I can now taste a bit of the sweet warmth from the spices. So I think the reason why this biryani is perhaps very popular with travelers is that even after they come here, finish the biryani, and up in a bus 1 hour away from Belgaum, they can still taste the lingering flavors of the biryani here. And I think that's what makes it special. If you'd like to support the work that we do at Food Lovers TV, do consider joining our membership community on YouTube by hitting the join button below or on the home page. You could pledge a nominal sum and receive special privileges like behind the scenes footage, shoot updates, access to live Q&As and a lot more. You could support us on our Patreon page as well. For more info, check out the links in the description below. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, like, share and leave a comment below. Happy eating!